listen up. This is Military Monday and this is your morning briefing. Today we're going to be learning about the Panavia tornado MRCA. Yes, what does MRCA mean? Well, that's a very astute question actually. The MRCA. It's a really ingenious aircraft design, first of all. MRCA stands for Military Reconnaissance Communication Aircraft. Of course, this could have changed in recent years, you know, with newer designs and so forth. Thank God. Saved by the bell. Yellow.
Hello, it's the Royal Air Force calling. A tornado is headed your way. Prepare to be destroyed.
What do you mean? It's not even raining outside. It's been sunny all morning. Oh, I guess it's not that kind of tornado. Scramble the jets. Oh, that was a close one. Hello everybody, Roger says hey. I was just gonna wear this for the video, but then I noticed that the lights show up in my glasses right here, and it looks like I have like a weird alien eyes or something. So this video is a Patreon request from Scott Andrew McNamara. Hope I said that right. It's on the Panavia Tornado MRCA, as you guys saw. So in just the cursory look I've done at this plane before filming this, it looks like it was built maybe in the 1960s. And it looks like a really cool plane too, on top of that. But of course, I know nothing about it. This video is also from the channel Imperial War Museums. I have had some of you in the UK let me know about this place before, saying that I definitely need to visit if I ever make it over to the UK. But I haven't ever done any videos from their channel yet, but I'm assuming they know a lot about this plane and it should be good. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this tornado. And I am actually going to take this off because it's kind of weird watching a video with all of this stuff on, so.
Behind me is a Tornado GR4. It's an aircraft that formed the backbone of the Royal Air Force in various variants for nearly 40 years of continuous frontline service. When this was originally designed during the Cold War, its main role would have been out over the plains of Germany had the Russians attacked, potentially using nuclear weapons. By the time the GR4 was in service, it was fielding strategic weapons that could be dropped with precision, be it in the Gulf War of 1991 through to final actions leading up to the type's retirement in March 2019. Wherever the RAF were used, tornadoes would have been on the front line.
So this plane is still in service then if it was used as recently as 2019, I'm assuming. That's a really long time for a plane.
The Tornado IDS was designed as a specific one-task low-level strike aeroplane with the additional capability of elaborate advanced reconnaissance. Therefore, its philosophy was of high wing loadings, tough structural strength, very fast low level, and nobody worries too much about what goes on with altitude.
So in the mid-70s, the idea was that we needed a new aircraft to be able to act as a bomber. At the time, we had aircraft like the Vulcan still in service, huge, great, big, very obvious aeroplane. We needed something quicker, we needed something more versatile. The UK government by themselves weren't in a position to just go ahead and design their own aeroplane as we had done in the decades before. So Britain, along with a number of other nations, formed a consortium that would become known as Panavia. Belgium, Holland and Canada at one point were involved in the programme, but it was only Great Britain, Germany and Italy that actually saw Tornado go into production. The other partners had dropped out.
Okay, that's interesting. So What was the reason for, were there just budget cuts in the military or something? Is that why Great Britain couldn't design the airplanes like as they had before? And also Panavia, so that is what he said, a consortium of different countries coming together to design this plane, which is really interesting because I always think of plane designs and stuff as being something that's like countries want to keep as like top secret and don't really want to show other countries. So it is a different way of going about it, I guess, of like coming together with other countries to design this plane that I guess everybody would use.
The whole policy of the program, whether it was right or wrong, was appeasement rather than confrontation. I think that probably is the only way you can do it in international collaboration. Having said all that, the Tornado was worked through. It had its difficulties in development, but it turned out to be a brilliant operational aeroplane.
The overall organisation and management of the Tornado project did learn an awful lot from TSR2, and they were all lessons of what not to do. Not so much what to do, but what not to do. Were all fed into Tornado. That project went surprisingly well, considering that it was 3 nations and 3 companies, all totally different in background and culture.
So the GR4 is the second main variant of the Tornado. The GR1 came first and was upgraded as a midlife update with increased avionics and better kit to allow it to fight into a new age. There was an F3 version, well, that was a fighter version that only the RAF flew. The GR stands for Ground Attack and Reconnaissance, and the RAF name pretty much all of their aircraft in a similar way. They are operated in quite a number of conflicts in the sort of the modern era. They were used over Afghanistan. They were used, as our one was, during Operation Elemi, which was to enforce the no-fly zone over Libya. And they were used at various other sort of flashpoints, often deploying forwards, in the case during Operation Elemi, to bases in Italy. The GR4, as I say, really did push the RAF's air power right through to its retirement in March 2019.
Oh, so it is retired.
The cutting edge of the RAF's front line to the year 2000 and beyond will be provided by the Tornado strike attack aircraft. Capable of carrying conventional or nuclear weapons, Tornado can strike far and wide throughout Europe from very low level. Tornado is the first RAF aircraft to be fully designed for the complex age of electronic warfare, enabling it to jam or deceive enemy defences.
That's so cool, the rockets on the back of that.
So we're now in airspace at Duxford with our Tornado GR1 aircraft. Our GR1 here has quite an illustrious history, which we'll have a look at in a second, but it is now painted in a fairly standard grey colour. Before, it wore what was called desert pink when it went to war during the Gulf War, Operation Granby in 1991. It acquired the later grey scheme here.
Desert pink, that's really interesting. I haven't seen that colour before, I don't think. I also learned in the video I did on the Festival of Remembrance that you guys call over in the UK the Operation Desert Storm, what we would call it over here, you guys call it Operation Granby, and I didn't know about that. I had no idea that we had separate or different names for the same thing, basically. I just assumed that everybody used the same name for it. Also, what is the green? Is this a different sort of emblem for the RAF? I know about the roundel here. I've learned to identify that as the British Air Force, basically, Royal Air Force. But what does the green symbolize? Like, I don't think I've seen it with the green around it like that before, the triangles.
After the Gulf War, when it was modified to GR1B standard, which had a maritime strike capability. The Tornado GR1, when it entered service, had been envisaged to carry nuclear weapons for use against Soviet bloc forces. Those weapons adapted over the years from free-fall to more sophisticated weapons. But during the Gulf War, this particular aircraft was named Foxy Killer, and it flew the highest amount of bombing missions by any RAF Tornado in that conflict. The majority of the missions it carried out involved dropping free-fall weapons or laser-guided munitions, but it started out that conflict by operating and using the JP-233 runway denial weapon. This huge weapon Tornado could carry a pair of these, and they were designed to deny the use of a runway to enemy forces by cratering the runway surface and spilling out anti-personnel mines to restrict the clear-up and repair organisation and operations.
Interesting.
Much like the aircraft itself, the engine were also a conglomerate, mostly produced at Rolls-Royce, but they did involve the manufacturers from Germany and Italy. They created a company, Turbo Union, and created the RB199. The engines were able to carry the Tornado at very fast speeds. In the case of the GR4 at low level, it would be unlikely to exceed supersonic speeds, but the fighter variant adopted by the RAF as the F3 eventually was capable of up to Mach 2.2. Because of the power of the engines, as I say, Tornado needed a very big fin to control the aircraft, and the size of the fin above us led to one of its nicknames, the Mighty Fin, or depending on who you spoke to, because of its base being RAF Marham in Norfolk, it gained the name the Norfolk Landshark.
All right.
The biggest.
You guys let me know, what is Mach, like Mach 1 the speed of sound? I think that's what it is, but I'm not sure. So if this could go Mach 2.2, it would be like basically twice the speed of sound. Is that correct? I don't know. That sounds really fast though. I don't know. That might not be right.
This new thing was fly-by-wire. It was a big step in the dark, controlling aircraft purely by electronics. The first European aircraft which had a fly-by-wire system. When you want to go to high speed, you sweep the wings back, that reduces the frontal area, and you can go much faster. It also improves the gust response at low level. It is an extremely good low-level attack aircraft, without any doubt at all. With wings fully swept, you can charge along at quite high speed and not feel a thing. For takeoff and landing, you need to have the wings out, and so you can bring it in pretty slowly.
Oh,
The big difference.
So the wings can like change shape, because it looks like in that flyover, they looks more angled back, almost like a vulture type wing to me. And then on this one, unless it's a different aircraft, he just says that the wings need to be out. So it sounds like that you can like move the wings in and out, maybe like that.
With Tornado over other variable geometry aircraft such as the American F-14 Tomcat or F-111 is that on the wings of Tornado there are hard points, and those hard points are attached mechanically. So as the wing sweeps back, the pylons rotate as well, which means that the weapons we're looking straight down the nose of here remain faced into the direction of flight, whatever degree of sweep back is put on.
Oh, that's pretty
The GR4 continued to carry a huge range of weapons, but the big difference was the weapons that was being carried on the GR4 were a lot more sophisticated. On our Tornado, just here, we have a brimstone launcher. This is one of the last weapons that Tornado would have been equipped to carry as it came out of service. This particular
Oh my gosh, I mean, just look at that. I mean, it looks like it's, I don't know, it's packed to the brim with bombs.
One of the last weapons that Tornado would have been equipped to carry as it came out of service. This particular example is a replica, as the RAF are still very much using these in service. They're developed from the Hellfire missile, most associated probably with use on the Apache attack helicopter. But it gave the Tornado a capability to hit individual targets, such as individual armour or soft-skinned vehicles with each of the missiles. Most of the Tornado's offensive armament would have been carried on pylons underneath the centre line. As we go up underneath the wing, Tornado carries on the hard points on the wing a fuel tank. The fuel tank increases Tornado's range without the reliance or the need for too much air-to-air refuelling. And on the fuel tank pod is the place where they mount the defensive weapon. Early versions had a sidewinder. On Tornado GR4 we had ASRAAM, the Advanced Short-Range Air-to-Air Missile.
What is a sidewinder? I've heard of that before, but I don't think I know what it is.
They were only for defence, they weren't a fighter aircraft, but it did give the Tornado some form of self-defence capability. Likewise, on the outer pod, we find the BOS pod, which deployed chaff or flare to put off a potential missile shot coming at the aircraft. So the Tornado, throughout its life, always had a crew of 2. Throughout its life in the RAF, they would have had a pilot who sits in the front. He flies the aircraft, he gets it to where it needs to go, and he's supported in the back by a navigator. Now, the RAF maintained the term navigator, whereas really the navigation was done beforehand. Lots of map reading and otherwise was actually, in early versions, on a cassette, plugged straight into the cockpit. But the navigator adapts to really become a weapons system operator. So along with the pilot, that's the role that they predominantly take on.
He said, right, well, we've got to get rid of some of this fuel. We can either dump it or we can have some fun. So we whipped up over Dunmail Racing into the Yorkshire Dales, and he said, now, I'll show you terrain for them. We picked the Dales going across them, and he stuck it into hard ride at something like 400 knots with a 100 feet clearance. All it was rocks heather, sky, rocks heather, rocks. That's all I could see in front. And he was sat there in the front cockpit with his hands on his head. So I mean, this was Tornado at its best. It really was.
In March 2000.
Is he talking about Scotland? I forgot what it's called. It's something Dallas up there by Scotland. I think that's what he was talking about, but I'm not sure.
At its best, it really was.
In March 2019, the Royal Air Force said goodbye to the Tornado. After nearly 40 years frontline action, the Tornado's life had come to an end. They've been replaced in frontline service with the Royal Air Force by aircraft like variants of the Eurofighter Typhoon. But such was the affinity that the RAF had and the public perception of the aircraft that a number of special performances were put on to say farewell to this aircraft. Here at Duxford, we were very fortunate for the RAF's 100th anniversary in 2018 during our air show. An example of a Tornado flew alongside the RAF's Lancaster and the brand new variant of the F-35, basically representing 617 Squadron through the ages. With the wind down of the Tornado fleet in the Royal Air Force, aircraft and airframes began to be retired, one of which was our aircraft here. Following its final flight, it was delivered to Duxford by road, bringing our collection right up to date with an example of something that served the RAF on the front line for over 40 years. And also it displays a weapon fit which is actually not too dissimilar from aircraft that are still operating on the front line today.
Okay, so towards the end there, he mentioned something about a Eurofighter, and I wonder, is that like a European Union fighter or something? I'm not sure exactly how that works. I think he said it was the Typhoon, maybe, which I think I've heard of that one before. I had not heard of the Tornado though, but it looks like a really, really cool plane. It looks like it was used in conjunction with the Vulcan, but the Vulcan, I guess, was more of your long range, more high altitude bomber, and this was more of your shorter range, lower altitude bomber. At least that's kind of what I get from it. So I wonder how many of these were actually in use in the Royal Air Force. And I wonder also the British military in general, does your Navy fly planes too, like the American Navy does, or is it just the Air Force that flies planes? But that was a really cool video. Thanks, Scott, for recommending it. I always enjoy learning about the planes, and I have done a few videos in the past on the Vulcan bomber, and I more recently did a video on the Soviet superplane that used the ground effect method of kind of skimming across the water. That was pretty cool to learn about. So I always enjoy learning about aircraft, you know, sort of that branch of the military. I think it's one of my favorite branches. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video too. If you did, appreciate a like and a subscribe. I also have links to all my social media, ways you can contact me in the description and the pinned comment. I also have a link to my Patreon where I do videos over there that I can't do over here on YouTube. So if you're interested in checking that out, the link is in the description and pinned comment as well. And I also have a Star Trek podcast for all you Trekkies out there. The link is also in the description and the pinned comment. You know the drill. So go check that out. Roger here, and I thank you guys for watching as always. We got a lot more military stuff coming up on this channel, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.